I'm the pastor of Bearing Memorial United Church of Christ in Montrose, Houston. I was also one of the more than 7 million protesters who rallied on October 18th to protest the actions and policies of the Trump administration. It is beyond disturbing to me that the President of the United States' response was to send out a picture of himself pouring fecal matter on the heads of protesters, calling us whack jobs and saying we don't represent the American people. I beg to differ. I am one of the 75+ million people who voted against Donald Trump. We lost by less than 2.5 million votes. I thus represent over 48% of the American people. In addition, President Trump doesn't even represent the majority of the 77 million people who voted for him. They voted for him relying on his false promise to only go after violent criminals in immigration raids. He's instead terrorizing hardworking, contributing members of our society, destroying families, and even arresting and deporting U.S. citizens, none of whom are violent criminals. A majority of U.S. citizens disapprove of his policies. Trump promised prices for groceries and basic goods would go down on day one once he assumed office, and yet food prices have climbed by over 3%, and when you consider the cost of goods impacted by his tariffs, I and many Americans are paying almost double for weekly food and supplies. He promised to be hard on crime, and yet he refuses to release the Epstein files so that we can hold accountable sex traffickers, a heinous and violent crime, with Mike Johnson refusing to call Congress back to work, even though they're being paid fully while other federal workers are working without pay. And the reason he won't call them back is so that he does not have to swear in the newly elected congresswoman for Arizona, which would tip the vote so that they have to produce the Epstein files, which, by the way, 90% of the American people want. And the list could go on. So don't tell me I'm a whack job and don't represent the American people, because I actually do. And on top of that, my family on both sides for generations has served this country faithfully in the armed forces. And none of them would support the use of U.S. military troops against their own citizens on U.S. soil. And Don Jr., I'm an ordained pastor in the United Church of Christ. I come from a long line of pastors, and they and I have given our lives to follow Jesus in service of others. Nothing about this is saving Christianity. In fact, nothing in it has anything to do with following Jesus. It is an abdication of core Christian values. And by naming Jesus as the source of this, you are defaming his name. So I respectfully request that you stop.